Sweet. Am I supposed to put these on?
I would. It
Okay.
makes it, you're like more present. We are live, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
You're more like here in tune. You can hear me?
Yeah, this is weird.
Oh, you know what I didn't tell you? So you kind of want to keep the mic like within like a fist length from you. So no, too far. They're not going to be able to hear you. And you have so much to say.
That feels like
No, it's
an
good.
insult. Just saying.
I would not invite you on if I didn't think you were going to be a great guest. Let me tell you. Here's the deal. Here's the reason why I'm so excited for our conversation.
Okay.
It's going to start with a couple compliments. Number one, I think that you're a very interesting, great person. So this is going to be a good conversation, as it always is. Just
Thank
not
you.
normally
Is that
recorded.
a code for like you're super weird?
No, but there's a but. So the ... is I think that you should lean into things that scare you. And something that scares me is being live without the ability to edit with you on a podcast.
See, that's why I was like, he's never going to invite me.
You get
because I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's a little scared of what I would say.
You get one. I mean, like, it depends on how this goes.
One shot. Okay.
Anyway,
I should be your co-host permanently.
Hey, again, this is your rehearsal.
I told Gabby my dream job is, if you've ever listened to like true crime podcasts, there's like probably 5 times out of 10, there's like just a girl who sits on the side and is like, oh my gosh, that's insane. Just like every couple minutes to remind people that she's still there and that this person isn't just talking to themselves. And I'm like, I want that job, to get paid to just be like,
whoa,
to pretend to listen and be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
The only time I've ever listened to a true crime podcast, it was maybe like some of the first podcasts I ever listened to is when I was getting my tattoos done, and I didn't realize in my head it was going to be like instant gratification. I was just like, tattoo. I have this new tattoo that I, no, hours, like so long and so expensive, because it's like the longer it goes,
true story,
the more expensive it is. So I was like, I think I'm gonna like try podcast since I'm sitting here for hours on end. And then so I'm that person you're talking about, like the co-host, but I'm the listener while this dude's tattooing my arm. It's like, whoa.
See, you'd be like really good at it.
Yes. It's only a skill set that you need. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
We are, like I said, we are rolling. So I was thinking about things that I don't know about you, which is like plenty, I'm sure.
Okay.
But are you from Central Ohio? Are you from around here?
No.
Where are you from?
I'm from Cincinnati area.
Gotcha.
So I grew up right around Kings Island. So like 30 minutes north of the Ohio River. When
you're a kid, do you frequent Kings Island like we do, like the Columbus Zoo around here, like during the summer?
Yeah, I had an annual pass every summer until about middle school, because like the luster just wears off really quickly. And then in high school, I was like, oh, Kings Island is so lame. I just want to go to Cedar Point. And then I was like, I don't want to drive like 4 hours to get to Cedar Point. So nope.
Kings Island it is.
Right. So like, guess we're going to Kings Island. But like growing up there, we just had other stuff to do. So my parents were like, well, we're not going to get you annual passes if you're never going to go. And I was like, sweet, don't get me an annual pass then.
So Cincinnati, what did work bring you to Columbus?
Mm-hmm.
So it was actually funny. I was thinking about work, and I was thinking, like, I know better, but I was thinking like ASL teacher, and that's not what you are.
No, not at all.
So I know what you do, but I'll just let you talk about your profession.
Do you know
that you're not an ASL teacher. I know that you work with children who are hearing impaired, correct? But you are not teaching them American Sign Language.
So the term is deaf or hard of hearing.
Hearing impaired is that not
hearing,
PC?
No.
Dude, see, that's so interesting, because I swear to God, before I walked out of the house, I was like, hey, Court, do you think that that term is PC? And she's like, I probably just deaf. And I was like, that seems not PC to me. And she's like, well, it's medical, like it's a medical term.
Right. So technically there are 2 ways of thinking about the word deaf. There's little d deaf, which is the medical term of like your hearing loss is past a certain point. And then there's big D deaf, which is a cultural awareness of like, I am part of the deaf culture. Deafness is part of my true identity kind of thing.
What was the other term that you said?
Hard of hearing.
Hard of hearing.
So it's those are both medical terms that are just based on how much hearing you have left versus what you don't have. But I teach kids that are deaf or hard of hearing and provide services to help them catch up, because a lot of the times what we see is there's a severe language deprivation or delay. And so my job is to help try to bridge the gap between where we would see a deaf or hard of hearing child versus where we would see a regular education child in terms of their development academically, linguistically, things like that.
At what age do you start working with your students?
So I am licensed. I can start at pre-K, so 3. Our program starts working with them at 3, and then I can go all the way up through high school, which is what I'm doing next year. So
it's like strictly high school, or like, gotcha.
Strictly high school. I will be termed what's called an inclusion specialist. So kids that are in regular education classes, but might need just a little bit more support to be successful and to reach their true potential in those classes.
Is that, has that move, been like slated? Like, have you been like looking forward to this? Is this like a strategic?
I was offered the position not last school year, but the school year before. And I turned it down because we were coming off COVID. And I was like, yeah, I'm burned out, but like maybe that's just COVID. Spoiler, it wasn't. I'm just kind of burned out. And I was offered it again because my boss really wants me in this position because she knows I'm independent and like I'll actually do my job. And that I was looking for something different. And so, yeah, it's kind of been slated. Like she's been wanting me in that position for 2 years now. And I finally just was like, sure.
Sweet. Are you excited for it?
Yes, I'm excited, but I'm also very nervous because I've never worked with high schoolers. And to like elementary kids, like being weird is cool, but to like high schoolers, being weird is weird. And so I'm a little nervous of like, they're going to be like, she's hella weird. Peace.
That's a very fair thing, because I think about like being put in a position where I had to work with my like high school self. Blah.
Right.
Like,
right.
High school.
Like so many emotions, so many hormones that I'm like, I'm not going to deal with this.
You have no idea like who you are yet or what you're going to do. I mean, like, do we really? Like, we're all kind of just figuring it out, but high school is just the worst.
Right. High school, it's like you're just put under this microscope of like, you should be figuring out who you are, but then you feel like, no, I have
groups,
no effing idea.
And then you have to identify and be with other people who also don't know who they are.
Am I a jock? Am I a nerd? Am I preppy? Like, I'm like, I can't do it.
So, hey, take it back. Why, like, all the way back to my original screw up, right from the start, within the first 3 minutes of the podcast.
Okay.
Why is that term not like correct?
Because what it does is it highlights what the person can't do. And that it becomes that definition. Hearing impaired means like, oh, you can't hear. And that becomes the central point of their identity versus like, no, I'm deaf and I have this other way of communicating and it's really cool. And like, y'all can't understand me and I'm talking about you right in front of you and like, haha.
Sure.
Kind of thing.
I dig it. That's awesome.
And so we're really trying to get away from hearing impaired because all that does is highlight.
Makes perfect sense.
The deficit.
Yeah, for sure. I think that deaf maybe feels like, because it's like one syllable, it feels like sharp. So you kind of like lean away from it a little bit if you don't know better. Like,
right. But here's the problem with it is everyone hears death and they're like, you're a death educator. I'm like, yes.
That's exactly what I do.
Educate dead people. It's harder than it sounds.
Or easier. Really.
Right.
There's
literal no expectation.
So how do you find yourself in this line of work? Was this always the plan? Like, what's your story when it comes to your career?
Not always the plan. In high school, I was like every other week. I wanted to be something different. At one point, I wanted to be a photographer. At one point, I wanted to be a nurse. And then I realized I cannot handle bodily functions for other people. Like, I'm like, nope. My high school is very, very big. And they offer sign language as a foreign language. but they only offered 2 years. So my parents were like, that can't be all you do. So I was like, sweet. Okay, I'll take French for 2 years. Try it. And then if I still don't like it, then will you let me switch to ASL? And they were like, cool. Love that plan. Took French, spoiler alert, hated it.
2 years later.
2 years later, I was
still
like,
hated it.
ASL. And I'm sure you've noticed this about me. I'm kind of fidgety and move and like
Welcome to the club.
Right. Talk with my hands anyway. And it turns out I'm also like a visual learner. Like I just learn really naturally through visuals. And so loved the class, was a natural at it. Like I'm in the background, like when she's talking, I'm in the background, like signing with someone else. And years later, she was like, yeah, I know. Thank you. Really glad I was super sneaky. And so because of that, my teacher really kind of guided me into like, well, okay, if you want to keep going with it, then you either get like interpreter or educator. And interpreting did not sound like appealing to me at all. And so I went into education and it just kind of happened.
You could have been like the interpreter for the she was awesome, dude.
I could have, but I'm not that talented. So
I bet you could be equally as entertaining, if not more. She was, dude.
I would like go off on tangents. I'd be like,
during that was like the worst time in our lives. Like it was very scary, and all the governor is saying is bad news. It's everything coming out of his mouth is bad. But it's like I'm tuning in to watch her because she looks like she's at Disney World, and she's amazing.
Like she, because we would text about her all the time, in like my teacher group text, because we would all watch Wine with DeWine and and just be like, okay, what did he say? And then we're like, what about this interpreter? Like, what is going on? Why are there 4 of them? And it turns out she herself is deaf. And so one of the interpreters is listening to DeWine and signing it for her. She's taking in that sign and making it more conceptual to like be true ASL. And I was like, whoa, that's like the
live.
Job. Like, whoa.
Right. I mean, it's interpreting. So
right. And that's her job. And she's like one of only 2 in the entire state that is certified to do that.
That is crazy.
Right.
I didn't know because she went like viral, like the whole country.
Amazing.
And I did not know that was the story. How cool.
Well, at first I thought she was DeWine's sister. I was like, you guys look alike. If you are not related, then do your 23andMe because something is up.
We're in some weird kind of it was a Twilight Zone anyway.
Right. I was like, what is happening? You are not related? That's a lie. Okay.
It's all a lie.
Right.
This whole
right.
thing.
I was like, this feels like a conspiracy. Okay.
So when you got your first gig, your first job, sorry, that was like very weird.
I do perform every day, so that's fair.
What were like the initial biggest challenges? Because I mean, you have your education, but coming into your first job, what were some of the first challenges you faced?
I mean, a big part of it is just when you're a baby teacher, like you have no idea how to manage a classroom and like what works for you, because in student teaching, you're doing what worked for the like head teacher, because she already had that way of running her classroom when you came in. And then it's like, you're put into this classroom, you're like, I don't know what I want to do, how I want my classroom organized, how I want the rules set up, any of that. But then for me, there's also the language element of like, I have to speak in English, sign in non-English at the same time. Like that for me was so scary when I first started. And like now it's still a little scary, but not as much because I have developed my own style and kind of my own beliefs about my classroom and what I want it to be. So like that part's better, but like the signing part is like, you just have to always want to get better. You can't be like, oh, I know it all. Like I know all the sign language. It's fine. Like you have to constantly be wanting to get better, because for me to like explain certain things, like I would have one way of explaining it and like all my kids would get it. And then I'd have this one kid that didn't. And I'm like, crap, like, what can I do now? Kind of thing. How can I switch it up? How can I explain this in a different way that this kid will understand, like that kind of thing. And so I think that was one of the biggest challenges for me.
Do you enjoy more like teaching a whole group of children, or like I've actually seen you at Hotspot on multiple occasions tutoring? Do you enjoy the one-on-one? Like,
it depends on the group and it depends on the kid.
Sure.
Like the student you've seen me tutoring, I really enjoy working with her one-on-one.
She's a sweetheart.
Oh, I love her. But she's also super motivated to learn. So therefore, when I do work with her, she's like, okay, cool. Like I'm buying into whatever you're doing. But I've had groups that like, I love doing whole group work with them because their discussions are super cool. Because I'll have somebody coming with a perspective from a Spanish speaking household, somebody coming, one year I had Spanish, Nepali, Somali, and then ASL.
Wow.
4 different households, 4 different base languages. And then I have to now teach you English.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So like, that was a really cool group to work with because they all had all these different cultural things coming into it. And for me to get to learn all those was really cool.
Wow. Are there any like common, or do you think there are like any like common misconceptions about like your field of work that like you think that people from the outside are just wrong?
For sure. I think one of the biggest misconceptions I get all the time is like, oh, your classroom must be so quiet. I'm like, no, my classroom is one of the loudest because they cannot hear themselves. And therefore they're just like banging on stuff or like making noise, like the amount of just like throat noises that I would hear. I'm like, and I would have this facial expression that my kids were just like, oh, sorry. Like, that's on me, my bad. But yeah, I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. And then another one is just, and this happens with all of special ed, is thinking that they can't. Like, or I don't want to say going into it thinking that they're dumb, but that's the easiest way to communicate it. Like people just go into it thinking, oh, wow, like they're deaf. They can't communicate. They have no way of communicating with me. And I know that that's an insecurity on like other people's part to be
Sure.
like, how do I even try to communicate with this person that can't hear me? Right. But I think that leads to an assumption like that they can't, or they're not as intelligent as other kids. But again, that's like all of special ed.
Wow. It's got to actually feel like a superpower. The fact that you can have a whole conversation 12 inches behind me and I have no idea, right?
Oh, for sure. And I have done it.
Today.
Not about you. Not about you, because nobody else here knows sign language. So I'd be talking to myself. And I can do that already. I don't need to sign that.
My dad, one of his best friends is deaf. And I think it was he was not born deaf, which is that's probably kind of common, right? Like where like something happens where I think he got like sick when he was a kid, and it like if it's a super high fever, I think I think it's a story like that.
Super high fever or ototoxic drugs, which the drug to cure whatever they have kills your hearing.
Understood.
Kind of either or.
Fun fact is his wife was my very first personal training client, and she was amazing. Like I was talking about like, starting and getting your feet wet. And I'm like, okay, like I'm nervous to teach the deadlift as it is. And there's a communication barrier. And she was just phenomenal and patient with me and like would give me a hard time and push back. Like when I was like, I think she could tell that I was just talking louder. She's like, still can't hear you, buddy.
That's what a lot of people do. They're like, so you can't. And I'm like, that's not effective. They still can't hear you.
So she was awesome. But the reason I got on this topic is, so my dad's friend, they have been friends since they were little. Like they grew up riding dirt bikes and stuff together. And my dad doesn't know a single word in sign language, but it's amazing how they communicate.
He knows a word.
A word.
Everyone knows a word.
He doesn't know 3 words in sign language. And their communication is really, really cool. So his friend Scott is just like, again, super patient with him. He has to be, right? Because I know my dad
Right.
just talks louder
Right.
and does that. But
And they're like,
yeah, but their relationship is so cool, and how they kind of have like their own language. Like it's really,
yeah,
it's neat.
yeah, that develops a lot. And like we see it a lot in our kids with their parents because a lot of parents don't know sign language
Wow.
and haven't learned even by the time they're in 3rd grade, which I try to be super graceful with, but I'm also like, this is your kid. Like, learn to communicate with them. But they have their own, they're called home signs that mean something to them, but mean nothing to the rest of society.
Like clean your freaking bedroom. It's
Right.
just
Like they're like,
what is
they're
it?
like, I will kill you kind of look.
Dude, this fly.
I know.
Oh, it's been in here for weeks. Like since maybe the first podcast episode in the studio.
Apparently you've made a nice home for it.
There's a fly swatter right there, but I can never get it.
I think you should definitely try it while we're live.
It would
I think
wreck
that
our
would
flow. What's the most recent new word or new whatever?
Oh gosh. I mean, so I went to Mexico to an all-inclusive resort in Mexico, and we met a deaf Mexican lady who was trying to teach us Mexican Sign Language. And that was a really interesting thing because one of my deaf friends was the one communicating with her. And to watch somebody who uses primarily ASL and English to somebody who uses Spanish and Mexican Sign Language is insane. And so, like, I was learning different Mexican signs.
Okay.
Just like when I was in Haiti, I learned Haitian signs, or like signs for cities and stuff like that. So,
Man, hold on, help me understand the process. So you have this woman is deaf,
yes. So both parties are deaf.
and they
One is American
okay.
and one is Mexican.
How does this learning process take place? I mean, I guess it'd just be like 2 people speaking their languages.
So there are certain similarities in the signs. And
Okay.
and the Mexican lady has lived in the US for at some point. I was not super involved in this because I was like, I am on vacation.
This is not work.
This is not what I want to do right now. Like, I literally just want to sit by the pool and read. Like, that's who I am on vacations of that magnitude. Like, I'm like, I'm not here to make friends. Don't come near me.
Who wants to go on a morning jog on the beach?
Right. And I'm like, no, I will literally not move today. Thank you. And so first off, watching them from like across the pool, I was like, that looks hella hard. Sucks to suck. I'm gonna go. And like teaching them different things. So like this is Mexico in American Sign Language and most of the world. And she's like, no, that's not Mexico. That's Mexico City. And I was like, feels like the same thing. But cool. And one of my friends who, bless her heart, like she is constantly taking ASL classes and is more motivated than me. At one point, so like we count in ASL 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Because this is 6.
Okay.
In American Sign Language. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yep, got it.
So in Mexican Sign Language, they're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, what did she say? I think it was like 6, 7, 8. So
and that's backwards.
Right. So it was like backwards. And she was so like aghast at it. She was like, Renee, this is 1. And I was like, yeah, that's 1 in ASL too. And she was like, she's like, well, this is 3. And so that became like our running joke the entire time is like, anytime we would have like a communication breakdown, I was like, this is 3.
Just get her 6 of whatever she's talking about.
And she was like,
6 drinks.
She was like, yeah, I know. And I was like, sounds a little white supremacist of you. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's not superior. Like to most of the world, this is 3. So I get it. And she was like, I know, Renee. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to get all in a tizzy over this. Like, so like little things like that are amazing. Like this is green because it's verde
Okay.
versus like this isn't a sign in American Sign Language.
Wait, what was?
This is green, the G for green. This is V
But that was 2.
for verde, but it's shaking. Means the
Oh
color
my
versus
gosh.
2 is
Yeah,
just
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So like in ASL classes, you learn like that a sign's meaning comes from a lot of different things: hand shape, hand movement, hand placement of like where I am.
Okay.
Like this is a male cousin, this is a female cousin. Like same thing, same hand shape, same hand movement, different placement on my body kind of thing. And so it's a really interesting process, and a lot of people are just like, oh my gosh, it's too like I can't do that. And I was like, but you can.
For sure.
You just learn to pay attention to it. It's like when you're reading and you're reading like for and from, or form and from, and
Mhm.
your and your, and two and two, and
For
there
sure.
and there. Like,
Is there, so like when I get on a roll and actually like, dude, I know he's driving me crazy.
it's fine.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Bad host.
I have ADHD, so
No, you and I
it
are both
actually
like,
works.
Yep, there it is. Completely be real.
All I remember is there.
Is there?
And
It's a
it's like,
question.
it's a very open-ended
When
question. Don't know how to answer.
You're gonna have to be more specific.
Is there what?
If I get on a roll talking about something, like if I'm deep in a conversation, you can probably speak not even slang, but like just very broken and incomplete, and the person, because you're in the conversation, like knows what you're talking about, right? Like, so like even that sentence was not a complete sentence. I was like working through it. In sign language. Like, are you able to like cut corners sometimes for the sake of speed to yeah,
for sure. Well, it helps that in sign language you don't sign every English word. Like I don't sign to the like.
Okay.
If I want to say like I'm going to the store, I go store.
Got it.
And like that's it. But it's also really cool because part of it is like you have to think of the concept of it. And sometimes in English, when we say something, we're not saying the actual concept. Like one of the ones that threw some of my like just super deaf kids for a loop was like to get out of bed. Because you're reading that. I get out of bed. Well, they read that word by word by word. So I get something.
Wow.
Out, like outside of bed. And they're like, what the hell does that mean? And I was like, I get out of bed. Like I stand up.
Holy cow.
Out of my bed. So like it's really super interesting. And that's one of the things I really like about it is like you're constantly trying to think of what am I actually trying to communicate and what's the effective way to sign that.
Is what you just described super common?
Oh yeah.
Like oh my gosh, because I would never ever think about that.
Right.
When I was growing up, when it was time to like get ready to go somewhere, my dad would always say like, hey, get your stuff around, it's time to go. Like that would be like, that doesn't make any sense. Get your stuff around. That doesn't.
Right.
Holy smokes.
Or like see you around, like see you around something, like that doesn't make any sense. Right. So I'd have to be like, see you later, see you tomorrow.
Wow.
Like that kind of thing. And like even that, like technically to sign that, I'd sign see you later. The slang is see you later.
Okay. Nailed it. That makes
like
perfect
that kind of
sense.
thing.
Yeah. You answered my question.
See you tomorrow.
You know, so you have this other talent where you can not only educate in a formal setting, but someone who is completely ignorant to the whole thing, you can like, I just got a whole crash course.
Well, but I'm also used to explaining a lot of that thing because people are like, well, why can't they read? Well, I'm like, well, because in their language, it doesn't make any effing sense.
When you get into an argument with someone who isn't deaf, do you start signing at them? Because I feel like I'm just using my hands right now and I don't know I know one word. Oh my gosh, I just feel like if you're trying to prove a point, you would just be like all up in somebody's face.
Yeah. Oh gosh. In Mexico I did it a lot, but also there was a deaf girl there. So like
it's justified kind of.
Like oh gosh. I do it a lot, especially when I'm like when I cuss. because they're really fun signs. And I love them so much.
I can picture you in a classroom when you were learning. Or I guess you wouldn't learn those in a classroom. You would learn those probably
I
on your
learned those
own.
socially.
Yeah, okay.
I learned those from going to silent dinners.
There you go.
And it's hilarious because like I went to a silent dinner and the more you go and learn these kind of social signs that are always adapting and always changing, which is the mark of a language. Languages change and adapt to the times. You just learn how to pick up on like what they mean. So like, so this is a sign for life. You know this sign.
Yep. Yep.
So you can probably guess what that means.
Yep.
Okay. Girl I was with, still learning sign. And super anxious, like super nervous because she's like, oh, there's a lot of deaf people. Like, I'm not a good signer. And this guy comes up to me and he's just teaching us signs. And he's like, and I was like, oh, like that's clever. I like that. I'm gonna adopt that. And the girl's like, what does that mean? Like, I don't get it. And I was like, okay, think about the base sign. She's like, live. And I was like, what else can it mean?
Close.
Like, what else can it mean? It's not a verb. And she was like, okay. I still don't get it. And like 3 minutes later, she's like, oh, that's funny. And I was like, and meanwhile, the deaf guy's going, FML. Like it means FML. And she's like not putting it together at all. And it was hilarious. And I gave her a hard time about it now too, because he also taught us, so this is mom.
You're making me nervous. No more. This is yes. Oh goodness.
Listen, I didn't say it.
You have if they're only listening, they wouldn't even have a clue.
Right.
Oh, you're funny.
Don't know what I'm saying. In class, when Keely was still a member, oh my gosh, I would he asked me to teach him these things. And so I was like, okay, that. I will. I was like, this is mom.
Oh, I remember.
And I did this, and he was like, I don't get it. And then in the middle of class, he's like, I get it. And I was like, thank you.
I actually specifically remember that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, hey, speaking of the gym, I want to know you're coming up on
probably 5 years.
5 years. Sooner
yeah, because on the
later.
wall, I'm on 4.
Almost 5. I remember.
I think in the fall.
Yeah. Yes, I remember because it was like your first class. We were doing something. We rode. I believe we rode.
I remember something with burpees, and you were like awkwardly following me around because it was my first class, and like I hadn't done onboarding yet, and so you were just like.
That is not. That is not.
No,
true.
That is 100%
I was
true.
Being attentive, but I wasn't creeping on you.
Okay, maybe from your perspective. From mine, first time person, you were just like
so out of control.
And I'm like doing a burpee, and I'm doing like the regular person burpee, not the freaking CrossFit burpee. And you were like, that's wrong. And I was like, no, it's not. I was like, no, it's not. Here's the thing. People forget what they say when like people first start, because Sarah also forgets that like we were partnered, and it was, I forget what the workout is called, but it's the like, you do push-ups and squats, and I think ring rows or pull-ups for other people that are stronger.
There's a benchmark.
Yeah, but it was a partner. Like you would like double the time.
Sure. Okay. I got you.
And like it was a partner. Yeah. And like you had to finish one full round, and then your partner finished one full round or something like that.
Got it.
And I was just starting and doing like push-ups. And I'm like, I know these aren't good. And she, not in these words, because she will contest this probably to the day she dies. She was like, your push-ups are trash.
Oh.
Like she didn't say that. She was just like, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, yeah, I know I am. But to be fair, I'm partnered with you. And you like teach this. So
back off.
So it's like, I'm just going to keep doing it my way, because right now I'm dying.
But look how far
because you're giving me zero rest. So thank you.
Keep going faster.
Right. I was like, keep going the speed you are.
Oh, that's funny. No, anyway, I remember your first class. I did not creep around. I was being attentive. It was your first class.
Okay.
But no, I
Let's
remember
agree to disagree.
it is that's cool. I knowing who you are and I don't even know what to say. I was just
You've told me this before.
I don't even know how I
That
worded it.
like
It's just
that when you first met me, you are shocked at who I am now
oh yeah.
compared to who I was
Both
when you
great
first met me.
both great people.
Okay. I
Okay.
know who you prefer. I know which version of myself you prefer. You prefer the quiet little like
false. Absolutely
like
not.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Now I don't even want to agree to disagree on this. We have to agree on this because you've never been more wrong about something. No, your humor and the energy. I'm not going to go deep down this. This is not like a compliment fest, but the energy that you bring to
It would be
a
a
room
nice change of pace though.
when you walk in is awesome. Like it was just I'm sure on day one you're kind of nervous.
Oh yeah, but I'm the person like I have to read the room and figure out like what's going on, but also I have zero filter. So like in the middle of class, like when Jake Taylor, because he's my favorite person to do this to, is like giving directions, and I'm just like,
That is the worst.
Things like that. I'm like, but I literally can't stop myself half the time. Like I'm like,
just gonna grab it as it comes out of your mouth.
Right.
No, but no, that's okay. So that's the difference, is that you were very like, maybe it was nerves, maybe it was reading a room and getting warm, but that had not come out yet. You were very like
right. And I think you thought that I was more of like a prude than I am.
Prude is a word. That's not what I would use,
but like that I don't cuss as much as I do.
The first time you pop something off, it was way out of left field, and I was like, oh,
I like
didn't
to be a
know
surprise.
that, teacher.
I like to be a surprise. I don't do it around the kids.
I'm just kidding. So anyway, this was such a long tee up for my question.
Okay.
Which was,
it better be really good.
Yeah. Why did you start? What were you looking for when you came here?
Somebody brought me, and that's why I started. Jennifer Martin.
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer Martin. So I used to work one-on-one with a trainer, and then she would give me workouts to do like we would meet once a week, and then she'd give me workouts to do throughout the week, or she'd be like, here's the workout, do this 3 more times. And I was like, oh, okay, I see your 3.
Yeah.
I raised them 5, like kind of thing. And that was also a point in my life when I was obsessive about how I looked, what I weighed, what I could do in the gym, like that kind of thing. And I'm really trying to balance that now, because like it was like borderline eating disorder. Like I was not eating enough. I was kind of thing. Like when I lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks, and she was like, hey, that's awesome. And then we did another 6-week reeval, and she was like, you've lost 20 more pounds. Like that is not
right.
Okay. Like something's going on. And I was like, okay, my bad, kind of thing. And like she kind of really pulled me out of that, which was helpful. But then she was like, hey, I'm going to go be a realtor. Bye. And so I was still doing a lot of those workouts, and I would just pick one to do that day. And so Jennifer is the manager at my apartment complex. And so she'd see me doing these, and she's like, hey, yo, you know what you'd like? CrossFit. And I was like, no, you're actually wrong. I would not like CrossFit. She was like, no, just try it. And then, so I was like, okay, I'll go with you to a class. And she's like, okay, follow me out here. And we just kept driving down 62. And I was like, where is she taking me? She might try to kill me.
Somebody's farm.
She's waited a long time if she's trying to kill me. Like we've known each other for years. And it was the same way when I first went to her house, and I was like, where am I? Because I am not a country girl, if you haven't gathered that.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of nature. I like the idea of nature. I don't like being out in it. Too many bugs and like plants that are trying to kill you, and then animals that are trying to kill you. And then like I would just kill me anyway. Like not meaning to.
just a big fan of nature on Netflix and in books.
Right. Like, I'm like, I like nature documentaries, if that counts. And so she brought me here, and the rest is history. And then you were like, try it. And I was like, I don't want to. And you made me promise to come for 3 months. And then it was just after that, it was like, how do I not come anymore? We're past the point of no return.
Now I'm stuck.
Cool.
What?
And almost 5 years later, I'm like, well, still stuck.
Still looking for that out.
On any day now.
On a serious note, which is a joke in itself, I suppose, what has been your biggest accomplishment, or plural? What are your biggest bright spots that you've taken away from the last almost 5 years from being here?
In here.
Yeah, for sure.
I was like, in my life.
Well, we can certainly talk about that. I was just trying to come back from
about to be like, I have none. Here, I don't know. I mean, I think for me, one of the biggest accomplishments isn't necessarily the physical stuff. It's forming relationships and finding really good friendships and sticking it out. Because honestly, when you were like, try it for 3 months, I was like, cool, then I'm out.
Yeah.
And choosing to stick it out and kind of going through these ebbs and flows. Like right now, I feel like I'm in one of those ebbs where it's like, I don't want to come. I am tired. My body is tired. Like, I don't want to be here kind of thing. Or like, I don't want to push myself, I guess. So I think one of my biggest accomplishments is sticking that out, but then also the relationships I've formed. Like, there are people that I'm friends with now that I talk with probably every day or every other day that like 4 years ago, I had no clue even existed on this planet. Like Lauren wearing a shirt. I had no idea she even existed.
Did you just say Lauren wearing a shirt?
Yeah, that's how she's in my phone.
Do you know?
Because that's how I had to learn how to say her last name.
Yes, I called her to her face, Lauren wearing, for at least 2 years.
And she's so nice that she won't fix you.
Absolutely not. Until someone else said it. And I was like, hey, Lauren, I've been saying your name wrong for 2 or 3 years. Right. Please let me know when I'm doing something stupid like that.
Well, when I first met her, like, all you know is Lauren. So I'm like, cool. Lauren, she seems cool. And then she like found me on Instagram, which was fine. Like, not weird. Not in a weird way. But she found me on Instagram and it's like L Waring. And I was like, what the F kind of name is this? And so I went to her and I was like, how do you even say that? And she was like, wearing. I was like, wearing, like you're wearing a shirt? And she was like, yeah, exactly. So that's how I put it in my phone. And now in my brain, that's what I say every time I say her last name.
It's so common. I did it to Ryan Hosak, called him Hosek for a solid year. And not even just like in conversation, like when he walked in the door. So when you walk in the door, I'm like, Grice, what up? When Ryan would walk in the door, I'd say, hey, what's up, Hosek? Nothing. Never said anything. I'm like, wow, dude.
In his brain, he's like, that.
What an idiot.
Right.
So we totally dove in there, but your relationships and your friendships developed. It's not funny. It's really neat actually that you bring this up. So I don't think you're on Instagram, not Facebook. Is that correct?
Correct. I deactivated my Facebook.
Good on
you. Probably almost a month and a half ago. It was something my therapist and I talked about, and I decided to actually follow through with because it was just making me angry or making me really depressed. And so I was like, this is not good for me. And she was like, try it for a week. And now it's been a month.
Yep.
A month or more. And
what is the result?
One, I have more time because I'm not wasting my time on there. Like I used to, like when I woke up, because I didn't want to get out of bed. I mean, that's still true. I would just be on Facebook and Instagram, and like Facebook, it'd be like, oh crap, like 45 minutes later kind of thing. Well, now I don't have that. I'm on Instagram. And so I still have that like mindless scrolling, but Instagram, like I don't follow certain people that I was friends with on Facebook that post just really stupid stuff that I'm like,
yeah,
you sound ignorant kind of thing. Or things that make me want to respond in a mean way. And I don't want to be that person. And so Instagram, like I just don't have that. Like it's a lot of like dog accounts because I want a dog, but I have an apartment, so I can't really have a dog right now. And so I'm living vicariously through Instagram. Or like good news accounts or things like that, or friends that I know post like good things going on.
Yeah.
But not in a fake way.
Yep. So the reason that I bring this up is because right before we came in today, I'm in
Were you like trying to tag me and you're like, F? She's
A,
not on here.
Yes, but I knew that you weren't on Facebook. But I am in like some different groups, like Facebook groups, like different business owner groups and stuff. And out of the blue, I
feels like a flex.
No, it's
like
easy.
Like a humble flex. Like
nah,
you're like,
all you have to do is join them.
I'm definitely part of like a ton of groups.
I just have
many
so
many friends.
No, opposite of a flex, because here's the punchline. So out of thin air, there's like a conversation going on and a guy made a comment and it was misinformed. So he was like incorrect and a hair bit sharp, and then mob mentality. Like all these business professionals
like destroy him,
teed off on this dude.
Right. Like they don't know. Let's cancel him.
It was crazy.
Right.
In like a group that is like respectable and that I'm like, it's a Facebook group that I have, like I'm a part of a group. I'm not affiliated with like this organization at all. Like, anyway, I was like, holy crap. It was like a brutal reminder of like how some human behavior is. And so I immediately went over to our group and I was like, I told that. I was like, hey, here's what I just read. And it just reminded me what an incredible group of human beings gather in this building. And so I actually said like, so in an effort to run the opposite direction of that crap, like, hey, tag someone in the tribe here that like inspires you and why. And like the initial comments were pretty cool. Like, and then we came on here, so I haven't seen them, but
probably they were all about me.
It was, well, everybody tried.
They were.
Everybody tried to tag you, and they were like, well, I guess she's not on Facebook. So.
No, I know that half the people in the gym are like, that witch with a B.
You are incorrect. No.
Okay.
I'm telling you, no. I think that I know that you are a very fun addition to every room that you walk into that flies after you, though.
Thank you.
So what, like, I'm really, really interested in this actually, because like you talk
my secret to being so charming.
Yeah, it's that one.
Okay.
So what?
It's just an 8. It's an 8.
Yeah.
It's trauma. Trauma.
Okay. What? You're talking about ebbs and flows, and feeling like maybe an ebb right now. What is on your radar? Like, what's next for you? What are you pursuing right now? In the gym, out of the gym, like.
I mean, right now in the gym, it's just consistency. Like this school year really like almost did me in. Like I almost quit probably like 10 times. And like, I'm sure if you look over my numbers, it's like, whoa, she really fell off. Kind of thing, just because like I'd be so drained from the day that I wouldn't have the energy to come in. And like I would only come in if like Lauren or Lisa Del Scato would like text me and be like, why aren't you signed up? Like, I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Like, get your ass here, kind of thing. And so for me in the gym, it's not necessarily like putting up these big numbers or being the fastest or anything like that, because one, that's never been who I am. I'm not a games athlete. I'm not here to be a games athlete. Like, I'm literally just here because I like to lift, and the cardio and gymnastics are like just kind of tacked on. I'm like, and because I just have a lot of friends here. So in the gym, it's more of like being consistent. And I joke, like right now, my motivation is like a -3. At the end of the school year, it was like a -5. So going up. And so being consistent, even though my motivation is super low right now. Out of the gym, I have been working really hard, probably since COVID, at trying to just educate myself on different social justice issues, um, like systemic racism or women's rights or just different things like that. In trying to be not like super politically active because our politics are fully corrupt, I think, at every level on both sides, and clearly have a lot of faith in the American political system. But trying to be more politically active so that I am at least aware. Like,
Sure.
I'm not just going and voting like a party line just because I've always done that. Like, actually being aware of who I'm voting for and what I'm voting for, and kind of trying to use my voice because I know that I've grown up super privileged and I have certain privileges that other people don't, purely because of where I was born, the family I was born into, and what I look like. Like, things that I didn't choose. Okay, so then how do I use that? How do I use that to help other people? Kind of thing. Without being like a white savior. like not in like a savior complex kind of way. And so that's kind of what I've been doing, is trying to just educate myself
Good on you.
and take the initiative myself and not trying to rely on other people to do it for me.
I love it. Incredible.
So,
That's the
thank
most
you.
serious I've ever like, I don't even know how to respond because you're
Thank you.
um
I do have serious moments.
yeah, it was good.
You just have to talk about something that I care about.
It makes sense. So I'm curious, because what you said is going to be, I mean, seriously, talk about like paying things forward and helping others. What you just described and hit the nail on the head with is like motivation versus consistency. So if I had $1 for every time, and like you've seen this as well, someone said like, man, if you were to post a picture of you pulling a deadlift, you would have 20 comments that were like, hey, way to go, awesome job, whatever. And then there'd be a few sprinkled in there that's like, gosh, I wish I had your motivation.
Right.
Which is a unicorn. Because even if you have motivation, it's very temporary and very fleeting, right?
Right.
So if you lean on motivation,
right.
you're leaning on a very weak temporary wall.
Right. And I posted a video that somebody else took of me pulling my current one rep max in a deadlift, and it was not pretty at all. Just spoiler.
Say the weight. You want to say it. You want to say that how much you pulled.
It was either 310 or 315.
Dude, so
I
there
can't
you
remember. Because I beat Gabby. That was the one goal. But because that's the one thing. That's like the one thing. And soon it's not even going to be that. Like, soon she's going to outpass me. But people were like, oh, like, wow, that's really awesome. And I was like, here's the thing. That isn't necessarily me being like, oh, I'm motivated and I do deadlifts every day. Like, it's not. One part of that is just natural, how my body is built. Like, that is just my powers in my legs. I think that's common for almost every woman. But like, okay, so that means I can pull a heavier deadlift. But I'm like, there's a reason I don't post videos of me doing like cardio or running, because I feel like I suck at it. And that's not something that's going to get me those compliments or something that's going to be positive that I can put out there, kind of thing. And so I think seeing that is good and bad, because you see that and you're like, oh my God, like, this person is awesome. And that feels really good to you. But at the same thing, it's like, you're not being completely transparent about what you
Well,
what you can do or where you're at, because I can post that and people are going to be like, oh my God, like, she's at the gym every day and doing great. And I'm like, no, I'm struggling to get here 3 times a week.
But so here's the deal though. This is the opportunity to talk about the other side of that. So, and because you're nailing it, like, I want to know, so you know, 2 weeks MIA, right? Work is drowning you. Your mind is tired. Your body is tired. The last thing that I want to do is go to the gym. And then your coaching team and your buddies reach out and you're like, hey, give me 60 minutes for you.
Right.
What does the other side of that look like? Like, how, what does the other side of that workout look like? So you do that, you lean into more,
like by the end.
Correct. Like, you lean into more adversity and you choose hard. How does that benefit you? Like, what does the other side of that look like?
I mean, it depends, because I have been forced to stay when I wanted to leave. And like somebody was like, "Don't you feel better?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I feel the same, but now I'm also sore." Thank you. And like at the time, I was just in my own head because I can look back and be like, okay, did I appreciate kind of the route that was taken to get me there? No. But like, was it helpful? Probably, kind of thing. And part of that is my own mental health journey, like learning kind of why I feel the way I do and what's triggering that and things like that. But I think for the most part, I do feel better after a workout like that, especially when somebody's like, just get here. Like, I don't care what you do when you're here. Just get here and do something. But on the other hand, like I can get really competitive. And so like it'll be like, okay, like I'm just gonna go move and like not do anything. And then I look over and somebody's doing more weight than me, and I'm like, F that, like I'm gonna do more kind of thing. And so therefore, like I have had really good workouts when I came, even though I didn't want to, or I came and I was really angry about the day. Like you coached one time and it was a workout full of deadlifts. I remember because you were telling me to breathe a certain way and I was like, no. And at one point for one set, I was angry because you kept telling me to breathe a certain way and I was like, no. And then the whole day, like I was like, I'm just angry at things. Like people had done things to annoy me and all this. And so I was already angry. It's not necessarily like you telling me certain, like coaching me, but I was like, it's another thing.
I was the that's okay. Sometimes that's what a coach is.
And like I kept pulling really hard, and then like I just slam it down and like pull it really hard again. And you were like, okay, I don't know what anybody said to you, but can they say it to you again? And I was like, F you. Like I am done with people. But then after like looking back the next day, I was like, oh wow. Like I did a lot more than I normally would because I was angry. And like that was a way for me to get something out. And so I think with that, it's not necessarily like for me right in the moment that I feel better about it. It's later. And I'm like, okay, like it's probably a good thing that I went.
And the value of the cumulative value
Right.
when you do get to Saturday and it's like, hey, I had a hell of a week. And by hell of a week, I mean 50 reasons not to choose more hard things.
Right.
But I made it into the gym Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. And man, that feels good. Like I can at least count those as wins.
Right. Like I at least did something.
And then I think the other common denominator here is putting yourself in the proximity, like the physical proximity of like-minded people who believe in you and who are rooting for you. Like it's very, very rare when you're a kid and you're on a team or in a club or whatever, and you have a talent show, like your parents and grandparents and all the other kids' parents, they're going to clap for you when you're up on stage and you're going to get like your award. And then you grow up and you become an adult. And like, there's not many places around where people are actually genuinely want to see you win or succeed in all areas of your life.
Right. But then I also think it's like people want you here. Like I have people that want to see me here and that notice when I'm gone. Like I think that's a big thing that in our society it's really easy to like just lose yourself and like that's one of the problems I have with like big churches is I can go and nobody will notice if I'm there or not. And like that's really hard because you want to feel special, you want to feel wanted, that kind of thing. And so to come to a place where like I have people that text me like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a week. Like what's up?" Like somebody notices that I'm not there or somebody notices that I am there. And that even when you're feeling like crap feels good to be like, "Oh, okay. Like I'm on someone's radar. Somebody other than me." Because it's really hard to have the self-discipline to just go for yourself every time. And so like half the reason I come is because I'm like, oh, this person signed up. I should go to class. Like I have literally gone to Saturday morning classes just because like Shauna Taylor signed up and I haven't seen her in 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh, Shauna, or like Melissa Dyer. Like, I'm like, oh, our schedules are so conflicting that I'm like, oh, she signed up. I'm like, crap, I don't want to go, but I have to go because I want to see her.
That is awesome. Well, that makes me very happy, and thank you for sharing that, because
You're welcome.
For that and your whole story, like every part of your story that we talked about today.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I consider, like, so selfishly for a second, like I just feel very fortunate and blessed that I have all the people in my circle, and then I'm part of people's circles that I do, and you're one of those people. So thank you for sharing today, and I'm glad that and very happy that this community of incredible human beings has that impact on your life.
I feel like this is a real moment of growth for us.
Yeah, we're getting for us, like we're getting.
I don't like it.
Well, hey, then we'll run away from it. Before
a lot of feelings.
Before we get out of here, is there anything that you were like hoping that I brought up today or asked about that I didn't, while we've got the lights and the camera on us?
I mean, honestly, the lights are really bright. Not gonna lie to you, it's not gonna go well for my skin complexion. It's not. I mean, no, because I literally had no idea coming into this. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, like these podcasts I really haven't listened to, but because I already have podcasts that I listen to.
It's good. I
and they're on Spotify, and so they automatically play. Like for this, especially now that I'm off Facebook, like I have to really go search for it.
You could subscribe to the YouTube channel and then you'd get notified.
I could, but I also don't have a YouTube account. I live in the Stone Ages.
That's good.
For a millennial, I'm not good at millennialing. Like I'm not good at being a millennial all the time.
That's probably a good thing.
I mean, I am really good at being a basic white
girl. You don't listen to the podcast.
Not regularly. I think I listened to Jake's.
Yes.
Because I was like, that dude is weird. I want to hear what he just has to say.
Yep, smart. And sure, he did not disappoint.
And I think I listened to, wasn't Catherine on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I listened to hers because she was like, listen to it. And I was like, okay. Yeah, she asked me super nicely. No, she really did. She was like, you guys should listen to it. And I was like, okay, I will. And so it was like, I had no idea what to even expect, but I was like, I feel like this could go either really well or really bad. And that's why I took my anxiety medication this morning.
Well,
haven't taken it all week. Thank you.
So,
it's as needed.
Okay.
So,
am I to blame?
Yes.
Okay. Is it a bad thing?
Probably, because yesterday you were like, are you nervous? Well, now I am. Are we gonna fight? Like what?
No, I was making sure you were. I guess it made it worse.
Are we gonna play truth or dare?
I'm sorry. Well,
no, it's fine.
I hope you enjoyed your time.
It's fine. I get anxious at almost anything, so
I'm
really good at hiding it.
Yes, because this conversation was great. Seriously, thank you for your time. And thank you for sharing. I can't believe. I mean, I can. I can believe it's been almost 5 years.
I'm convinced that in like every coaches meeting you have, like they're like, God, Renee, like what are we gonna do about her?
No,
like we need to talk to her. Like
no, if we needed to talk to you, we just would. No, but seriously, thank you for sharing your story today, and thank you for leaning into discomfort and coming on the podcast, and for being a great guest. So,
I mean, to be fair, I didn't have anxiety until yesterday, until you asked if I had anxiety, and I was like, should I? I literally approached you, and I was like, you're never going to invite me on.
And I was like, watch.
And you were like, really? Challenge accepted. And I was like, all right, cool.
Well, we both leaned into it, and you kept it PG.
I can do that.
It was good. You did good.
I just have to be told to do that.
Yes.
Or it just is super obvious that I have to be.
Well, hey, anybody out there listening to this, before we close out here, I do just want to extend the hand and the invite. Grice is 5 years in, and her story is one that speaks to, in her words, like the ebbs and flows, so honestly and so well. Like there's a honeymoon phase. You start and it's like that first 3 months, you do some things for the first time, and it's really exciting. And then there's certainly like life continues to happen. You'll hit a deer on your way to work, or like that's an example. Like now you have to now you're so ridiculous.
I just like that that's the first example.
It's happened multiple times where it's like, now I got to repair my car. Now I don't have a car. And now I got to figure out how to.
Okay, but that's a valid reason to not show up.
But then you have a circle of people who genuinely care about you, and friends that that will extend a hand and help you. Grice. So my point is that's the value of a very tight knit community of like-minded people, and it's the value of a coaching team who does, and I see that fly, who does genuinely care that you're stepping in the building. So I invite you to book a free intro, a conversation with our team, and you can do that at CrossFitVeneration.com. And we never a sales pitch. We just want to listen to how we might be able to help you best, and we'll make the best recommendation. And then I'll make you guarantee to yourself that you're going to give it a 3-month go, just like Grice here. And the other side of it is a great place to be. And then you're stuck on a good path. So Grice, thank you so much. Everybody, in the meantime, stay safe, keep moving. We will catch you next time.